What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be covering the top 5 science champions in the game, in my opinion. And that's something very important to bear in mind, that this is my opinion, but obviously I'm going to give you some points as to why I think these champions kind of rank above the rest. And, you know, this is covering the top 5. We're also going to do some honorable mentions at the end. But anyway, let's get started with the list, boys. Straight into the video. At number 5, I would have to say, is SpiderMan Miles Morales. Now, SpiderMan Miles Morales is a really solid option for Alliance War Defense. Champions with Evade, and he has that, but a slightly different mechanic. He has charges of Evade, that basically whenever he starts the fight, he has 5 charges of Evade, and this grants him a percentage chance based on his level. So mine's like rank 1 at the moment, so it's a really low chance, but I believe it goes up to about 10% per charge. So it's not really that frequent, but it can, you know, catch people off guard and then absolutely wreck them in an Alliance War, which makes him really valuable, especially on unstunnable nodes. A really good champion. So Miles Morales is really good just for the fact that he has Evade alone. A lot of people really suck at playing around Evade. As you know, Chloe's Warriors of Awesomeness shows again, like the really big problem with that everybody is facing is Spider-Man. A lot of people don't know how to play around his Evade, so this makes him a really valuable champion in Alliance War. Kind of adding to that, every time, you know, he has 5 charges at the start, but every time the enemy uses a special, he gains 2 more charges. So this means when people are fighting him, most of the time they're actually not going to be using specials, which means that, you know, the fight's going to go on for longer. So if you put them on, him on like a poison or degeneration node or a bleed node, then that, you know, makes him also a really good option for Alliance War Defense. Apart from that, he's got some cool little tricks up his sleeve. He's got this thing called Venom Blast, which when it's duped can trigger at the end of pretty much any combo that you do, but when he's unduped it triggers off your level 2, and this has a chance to do basically different effects depending on what the opponent's class is. So if they're science or cosmic, it has a 65% chance to stun them. If it's tech or skill, it has a 60% chance to power drain them, and if it is mystical mutant, it does a crit rate debuff, which is pretty useless, but the other 2 are pretty good. So overall, I think Spider-Man Miles Morales, really solid champion, really nice amount of damage, and a really good option for Alliance War Defense. So he gets my number 5 spot, and then at the number 4 spot, we're going to go with the Classic Spider-Man. So Classic Spider-Man is only really great when he is duped, because he gains a passive evade ability, which starts off at 5%, and I believe goes up to, I think it's about 15%, which is absolute 15, or I think it's 20% actually, may have got that a little bit wrong, but basically passive evade, absolutely amazing. You can't really play around it like the Miles Morales one by not using specials after you expend the charges. There's always going to be that evade, and even when you have like a Black Widow or something to counter the evade, you've also got to deal with the level 1, and the level 1 is really annoying when fighting against Spider-Man in the context of Alliance War Defense. If you put him on an unblockable level 1, his level 1 is probably one of the most hardest level 1s to evade in game, or the most difficult, should I say, probably paired with Maestro. Maestro's level 1 is really tricky, and so is Spider-Man's, and a lot of people can't do it. About 95% of the player base really suck at fighting Spider-Man, as you know, we have covered earlier in this video. So he's just a really solid option for Alliance War Defense, purely for those 2 reasons alone. But also when you're playing this champion and actually fighting with this champion, he's really fun to play. Has an armor break, has a boost to his crit. So it's an 8% chance to do a boost to his crit by 24, but increases crit rate by 24% for 5 seconds, which is pretty good. Armor break is about 12%, and that's on critical hits, has a 18% chance. So it's kind of like nice little extras like that that make this champion really good. And general, his base damage is just really solid. So Spider-Man is at my number 4 spot. And then at number 3, guys, we have Electro. Electro is one of the most fun champions in the game to play, and one of the most annoying champions to fight. So Electro, as Electro gains more power and the opponent gains more power, his critical hit rate goes up to 100% more. So if you are on 2 bars of power and the opponent's on 2 bars of power, you unleash a level 2 that is almost guaranteed to be a critical hit, and that's going to deal an insane amount of of damage. This champion has a fairly low amount of health, but really, really high attack. His damage is absolutely phenomenal, really high PI. He's mostly used for Alliance War defense because of his ability called Static Shock, which means 35% of the damage that he takes is redirected back to the enemy as enemy damage. So yeah, absolutely wrecks anybody that isn't like a Black Widow, Electro, or Crossbones, and a lot of people don't, you know, have a high-level dupe Black Widow, or Crossbones, or Electra, so he's just overall a really, really solid option, almost guaranteed on quite a lot of nodes in Alliance War to get you at least a few kills and, you know, tear through the enemy's team. What makes him just so powerful is that, like, 90% of the time, he's guaranteed to deal some damage to the opponent. So if you place them all over an Alliance War, they're guaranteed to, yeah, wreck and take down a few players. So Electro, really, really solid champion, really fun to play. Now, number 2, in my opinion, this might be jumping the gun a little bit, but I believe my number 2 ranking, and it's a very new champion, a champion that only a select amount of people have. The only people that have this champion is a 3 or 4 star at the moment, and the people that got lucky in the Quake bundle. But from this Thursday onward, she's going to be in Arena and also in the Crystals, so a lot more people are going to be getting her, and that is Quake. So Quake is a really, really strong damage dealing champion. She has quite a bit of utility. I think what really makes this champion strong is that when she's duped, she kind of has a Captain America type block effect, where her blocks block an additional amount of damage, and since the removal of perfect block, you know, having this additional kind of damage buffer on your blocks is so valuable. It's really kind of hard to explain how different it is playing the game when you have perfect block, because you can just relax, you can block. It's so easy to deal with so many different nodes, especially the unstunnable ones. So it's a really, really good choice for an offensive champion when questing, when going into stuff like Realm of Legends, really, really long fights where, you know, other champions, when they block, they would take a bit of damage and you gradually get chipped down. If you're using a champion like Quake or Captain America, who Captain America is my number 1 choice as a little bit of a spoiler, but it is just so amazingly good. Literally, I've cleared like 5 or 6 nodes in Alliance War with a Captain America World War II and still been above like 80% health. It is a ridiculously good champion when you can play really well. But Quake also has a few other gimmicks, such as she inflicts concussion on her level 2, and when the opponent is concussed, it reduces their ability accuracy. She also has the Aftershock scale, which inflicts additional earth damage and also has a small chance to stun the opponent, but not much of this stuff is terribly reliable, so that's kind of why at the moment I believe she's probably going to be second to Captain America. Still a really, really strong champion though. I feel like she's going to be amazing and very commonly used in Alliance War attack. So yeah, I think, and also Alliance Quest as well, because, you know, she's going to be able to go and fight stuff for ages. So yeah, I think Quake, again, it's a little bit preemptive on that, but I feel like she's a pretty solid option for number 2. Seems like a very promising champion. She already has been nerfed once, so she was before like a god for Alliance War defense, but now she's kind of like, she's still good for Alliance War defense, but nowhere near as godly as she was before. And then finally, guys, at the number 1 spot, we have Captain America. Now, when I say Captain America, I'm actually really talking about both of them, because when you do kind of a comparison on the champions, and I did a video doing Captain America versus Captain America, there's not really much between them. You know, there's a very small stat difference, and they do have different circumstances where one or the other would be better. There is really not much in it at all. They're both really great, really solid champions that do have their circumstantial uses. So what makes Captain America so great, again, is just the block, man. The block is crazy. His blocking reduces an additional 24% of damage from attacks, and he has a 16% chance to perfect block, but on top of that, with the block proficiency mastery, pretty much all of your blocks are doing close to no damage anyway. Generally, when I'm blocking with Captain America, I rarely take more than 100 damage at maximum, and when you have like a 15k health pool, that is absolutely amazing. So Captain America World War II has the pro of having a really, really strong bleed, which is really good for playing around like safeguard nodes when you're, you know, in the road to Labyrinth of Legends or doing maybe some of the new challenges. He has a small percent chance to stun on his level 1, and level 3, the classic Captain America has a much higher stun percentage chance, but doesn't have the bleed. So yeah, it's pros and cons, guys, pros and cons there, but it is a very, very simple champion, but it is very, very effective. Again, it seems so simple on paper, but you really have to play a Captain America in a quest, in Alliance War, in Alliance, or Alliance Quest as well, to really understand, you know, how valuable this champion is in the current state of the game in comparison to some of the other champions. So guys, that is it for my top 5 science champions. Now some honorable mentions and also a little bit of advice on the other champions. Hulk is an interesting champion with his duped ability, so the lower health he has, the more damage he deals. I don't really think there's a circumstance in the game at the moment where this is particularly useful. It's a really cool ability, but as an Alliance War Defender, he's way, way too easy to fight, in my opinion. His level 1 and level 2 is so easy to bait. So maybe on like an all-or-nothing node, he might be good, but generally people, tend to avoid those nodes. So not really too much there. Spider-Gwen, pretty garbage champion, doesn't really have much going for. Really weak armor break, really low damage output. There are just better options in every aspect of the game than Spider-Gwen. When we look at Yellow Jacket is actually a really solid Alliance War Defender on an unblockable level 1 node. Also a really fun champion to play offensively. He would probably be number 6 on the list if I had to choose. Abomination, when duped, is really good for Alliance War Defense, just scattered all over the place to try and throw your enemies off. Because yeah, he absolutely destroyed my Captain America earlier, ran into a 551 and got tons of stacks of poison. So I think he's really good circumstantially in Alliance War Defense. Actually playing this champion, he's not so great though, in my opinion. So yeah, not the biggest Abomination fan. Luke Cage is not so much of a great champion. He's alright in Alliance War Defense, can take quite a lot of hits, but again, he's really, really easy to play around. Level 1 and 2 is so easy to avoid, so yeah, doesn't really present too much of a challenge. Rhino is really good on unstunnable nodes, because when he's charging, he's unstoppable. So if you can't parry that, then you have to deal with that, and yeah, that gets really, really tricky to deal with on nodes that you can't stun. She-Hulk seems like a pretty decent option. Lots of stuns going on with her, and her duped ability kind of reduces, puts a debuff on opponent. I don't know exactly what it does. But she kind of seems like a pretty decent champion. I don't know super amounts about She-Hulk, but she seems good. She doesn't seem like she has anything that's amazing, but she doesn't seem terrible at the same time, so that's alright. Joe Fixit is quite good with the Deep Wounds Mastery. He's not a terrible champion. Ant-Man is pretty terrible when he's unduped, but when he's duped, he is really, really good for Alliance War Defense. Glancing hits. His ability, his duped ability is insane, makes glancing hits so that you can't crit, and also the glancing hits makes certain abilities not proc. So yeah, just really throws your opponents off. I think Ant-Man is a pretty solid option for any Alliance War Defense team. However, just defensively, I don't think he's that great, don't think he's that hype. But that is pretty much it for all the science champions, guys. So I've talked a lot in this video. I would like to know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit more about the game and kind of, got my perspective on stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more awesome Marvel Contest to Champions content, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That would be greatly appreciated. If you liked the video, guys, leave a like. Apart from that, guys, take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.